So you're good.
It's wild. It's connected to the audio. You take a straight shot right out. Right there along the bay.
Seriously?
And right across the street they have the Comic-Con.
And just get rid of it. No, just kidding. It's the last one.
Well, there you go. Nice to be here.
So, hi.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
A year away.
Yeah, I pulled her out. She should be here for these.
Just a heads up.
Yeah. Anybody calling in?
Yeah.
Well, that's kind of, what do you think?
Did you
I stayed till the 7th,
what was the score then?
9-3.
9-3.
Okay, good morning, everyone. It's 10 a.m. I ask you to please rise for the opening prayer and the pledge of allegiance before we convene our Commissioners' public meeting. Dear gracious and loving God, we thank you for this beautiful morning you've provided. We ask that the day ahead will be full of your grace and blessings. This Monday we'll celebrate Labor Day, the day where we pay tribute to the American worker for their contributions and achievements. We know that you want us to thrive in every aspect of our lives, and you've given us talents, gifts, and tools to accomplish just that. In your word you state, you shall eat the fruit of your labor, of your hands. You shall be blessed, and it shall be well with you. Lord, we thank you for the millions of Americans that get up each day and work hard to feed themselves and their families. We ask you to continue to meet their needs and bless those that labor. Father, we know that many are struggling to meet those needs. So many are food deficient. We ask you to meet those individuals' needs and their families. We pray for those who can assist them and help them and guide those individuals. We also know that many are struggling with illnesses. Father, you're the great physician. We ask you to touch and heal those that are ill. We see and hear of many miracles of your healing. We ask that you would give courage, encouragement, strength, and peace to those that are ill. Father, you're also the giver of life. We know that many are depressed, lost, and hopeless. Touch their lives and give them the sense of purpose that you've created them for. Let them know that they are loved and have gifts and talents to share. Let us be more attentive to reach out to those that need a smile, a kind word, or some time to share. Let us show that you're loved to those that we greet each day. And we ask for your wisdom to shine down upon us this morning and be with us in our daily journey. These things we humbly pray in your name. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. We'll convene the Commissioners' public meeting at this time and we'll ask for approval of the minutes of the previous meeting.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried. We have public comments on agenda items only from the audience or online.
I've got one online, Jacob Stopper first.
Anybody from the audience? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on.
All right, 1.6 proclamations. Tracy Haas Ungard, 2023 Hunger Action Month.
Okay, so regarding the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank 2023 Hunger Action Month proclamation. Whereas hunger and poverty are issues of vital concern in Lycoming County, where 10.7% of residents experience food insecurity, and whereas Lycoming County is committed to taking steps to combat hunger in every part of the community and to provide additional resources to those in need. And whereas Lycoming County is committed to working with Central Pennsylvania Food Bank and its partner agencies in educating people about the role and importance of food banks and food pantries in addressing hunger and raising awareness of the need to devote more resources and attention to hunger issues. And whereas Central Pennsylvania Food Bank and its partner agencies distribute nearly 3.5 million pounds of food in Lycoming County through their network of food pantries, soup kitchens, shelters, and other community organizations. And whereas the month of September has been designated as Hunger Action Month in order to bring attention to food insecurity in our communities and to enlist the public in the fight to end hunger by taking action, including volunteer shifts, social media shares, and donations to ensure that nobody has to make an impossible choice between food and other necessities like medicine, utilities, or child care. And whereas food banks across the country, including Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, will host numerous events throughout the month of September to bring awareness to end hunger in their local communities. Now, therefore, we, the Lycoming County Commissioners, do recognize September 2023 as Hunger Action Month in Lycoming County, and we call this observance to the attention of our citizens. Lycoming County Commissioner Scott L. Metzger, Chairman, Tony R. Massar, Vice Chairman, and Richard Maravito, Secretary. Tracy.
May I bring a couple
Absolutely.
of guests? Okay,
Absolutely.
thank you.
And they can come right up to the podium, please. Just introduce yourselves. We're being live streamed, and we're so thankful that you're here today. And more importantly, what the work that you're doing for our residents in our county.
Thank you. Thank you so much. My name is Tracy Haas Ungard. I am the Agency Services Manager for the Central Pennsylvania Food Bank Williamsport Hub. And with me today is Angelique from Sojourner Truth Ministries. She is one of the programs where we help distribute food. And then Emily from our development office. So I have a few comments, and then the ladies had a couple of things to share as well. So thank you again for having us. So September is Hunger Action Month. As Commissioner Metzger said, it's a time when we join with Feeding America and all of the Feeding America partners to raise awareness of food insecurity. In Lycoming County, it is as much of a struggle as it is in every other county in our 27 county service area. Now with inflation, food stamp benefits changing, we are actually right at the peak of the pandemic numbers in distribution. On the flip side of that, all of the additional resources that were available from the federal government are no longer there. So we are trying to do more with less. So what we are doing is asking everyone to raise their collective voices to advocate, educate, and work together to end hunger and food insecurity. And there are 4 ways that the public can get involved. Of course, donating either funds or canned goods, other non-perishables to the food bank or another organization. Of course, donating the gift of time is just as valuable, if not more. Participating, volunteering at a food bank or a local partner organization, educate, learning more about hunger in central Pennsylvania. We have a policy blog, centralpafoodbank.org, and actually the one I view as most important is advocate. Citizen in our county, state, country cannot advocate, use their voice to talk to elected officials and talk about public policy that reduces hunger and increases access to fresh, healthy food. Currently, Congress is debating a federal farm bill, which includes important nutrition programs like SNAP, also known as food stamps, and senior food boxes. Learn more and get involved under the advocacy page of our website, which is centralpafoodbank.org. So Angelique would just like to share a little bit about her program, so we'll switch.
Good morning. So I'm Angelique from Sojourner Truth Ministries. We are predominantly a soup kitchen ministry here in Williamsport at the corner of High and Center Street. Last year we served close to 20,000 lunches for people who are food insecure, homeless, have different barriers. This year we're tracking to 31,000. So it's a huge increase. And there was a nice article in the paper last weekend, and we had our Saturday service, which is dinner table church, and it was packed. And usually it's not that full on a Saturday. And someone had the newspaper. I didn't know it was in that day, and she said, "This is why we're here," because it said you help people. And so we were able to not only provide them a meal, but then a meal for later that night. They were just staying in a tent somewhere, and also give them a food care package, which we get food from the food bank for, and then also they needed blankets. So it was just a little bit of advocacy that someone did, pointing people to us, and I suspect more people than I had opportunity to speak with were people that came specifically because of that day. So thank you.
Absolutely.
And I'm just going to close this out by thanking you guys for really being able to understand and help us advocate for this. Being food insecure, we've mentioned that a few times. That's defined by the federal government as not knowing where your next meal is going to come from. That happens to anyone at any time. You can be in an accident when you leave here and be disabled and be out of work. We learned from the pandemic that it can happen to any of us. So trying to understand where hunger comes from is half the battle, and that's what Hunger Action Month is going to do. And there are counties in our region that will not acknowledge hunger in their county. So we really appreciate that you guys do, and you're helping us with being part of the solution. So thank you.
No.
Yeah.
You know, people can put their heads in the sand and pretend it's not going on. That doesn't solve anything.
Right.
Or they can acknowledge it and attack it.
Yeah.
And that's what you folks are doing. And, you know, I know WPVIA just recently did a thing on unsung heroes. Mm-hmm. And you were examples of being unsung heroes in our community. You know, attacking a problem that should never happen in this country. As prosperous as we are, we should never have anyone go hungry in this country. And so we thank you for what you've done, what you're doing each day. I look forward to come up next Wednesday and doing a food packing. It's a great location. Anyone can volunteer. Please contact them. It's fun. You meet new friends up there, and it's for, can't think of a better cause, because no one should go to bed hungry tonight, especially a child.
Absolutely.
You know, when I think of the 20,000 lunches or the 31,000 you're doing this year, I think probably of a lot of seniors who that might be the only time they actually have contact with other people, and that's great. And I mean, it's sort of the part of the food programs that we don't really think about, but is probably just nourishment of the soul, right? And the companionship that comes from it. So, you know, I think hopefully one of the things we can try to educate our constituents about is that seniors and children are really two of the most vulnerable groups because of the children. You know, it's one thing to be an adult and be hungry and be able to manage your hunger. It's another thing to be a child or a senior and to be hungry and not understand how that affects your behavior, your inability to concentrate in school, inability to follow directions from people, parents, caretakers, teachers. I mean, actually, sometimes as adults, when we get hungry, we get a little grouchy with each other. But it's different with children because they don't understand. And frankly, a lot of times the seniors, by the time they really get to a certain age, they don't understand either. So thank you all for what you're doing. We'll certainly continue to advocate. I'm sorry to hear that there are counties where they don't want to at least acknowledge it, and maybe we can certainly try to talk to them or show them by example what we're doing that's not so difficult for them to do too. So thanks.
Absolutely.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate that. One of my favorite quotes is, "The only way out is straight through." And that's what it is, you know, with hunger and just everybody acknowledging it. It's very hard to think of someone doing without, but not doing anything is certainly not the solution, and we appreciate having our elected officials be part of that solution.
Thanks for your service.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
I'd like to get a picture with you and provide the proclamation.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Come on up here, we're gonna take my
It's okay. We have much more opportunities before the holidays. There's lots of food to be packed in the next, well, the next forever. Let's put it that way.
What's up? Come on. I did hear you.
We're gonna scoot up. Thank you again.
Yep.
All right, next proclamation, childhood cancer.
Whereas Lycoming County's children are our greatest resource and treasure, their wellness is integral to our bright future. Hard time reading with the light. This month, Lycoming County honors the survivors of childhood and adolescent cancers, their families, as well as those whose childhoods were cut short. Whereas childhood cancer is the leading cause of death by disease in children and adolescents, 1 in 285 children in the United States will be diagnosed by their 20th birthday. 46 children per day, or 16,790 children per year, are diagnosed with this devastating disease. Whereas childhood cancer spares no one, affecting children from every race, color, and socioeconomic status. Whereas childhood cancer does not just affect the child, but also impacts the parents, siblings, extended families, friends, neighbors, and the entire communities. The financial burden can be devastating to families and the impacts of all of us. Whereas the National Cancer Institute recognizes the unique research needs of childhood cancer, as well as the need for increased funding. Only 6 new drugs have been approved by the FDA to specifically treat childhood cancer in the last 30 years. Whereas we express sincere gratitude to those who work tirelessly to support, treat, and care for the children and their families, as well as those that strive to find treatments and cures for this deadly disease. We pay tribute to all those in this battle. May their courage and commitment continue to move us forward for new cures, healthier outcomes, and a brighter future for the American youth. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Lycoming County Commissioners do hereby declare the month of September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month and encourage all citizens to join in reaffirming the commitment to fighting childhood cancer that so deeply impacts families in our communities and across this country. Signed by Scott Metzger, Chairman, Tony Macera, Vice Chairman, and Rick Marabito, Secretary. Now it hits close to home, and we'll have Krista come up we appreciate everything that she has done and has actually gone through. So. And her husband.
Thank you, Commissioners. I wanted to bring note to the fact that one of her pediatric oncologists was going to actually be here today and talk about, what's the word, tests, not the tests, the trials that they are doing down at Geisinger, that Liv was actually blessed to be a part of one and participated in a trial drug when she was going through treatment. However, he is short-staffed with a doctor that one of his colleagues that is out with a family issue and 4 new diagnosed children in the last week. The average age of diagnosis in children is 6 years old. 80% of childhood cancer patients are diagnosed late and with metastatic disease. On average, there's been a 6% increase in incidence per year since the 1970s, resulting in an overall incident increase of 24% over the last 40 years. 2/3 of childhood cancer patients will have chronic health conditions as a result of their treatment toxicity, with 1/4 being classified as severe to life-threatening. Approximately 1/2 of childhood cancer families rate the associated financial toxicity due to out-of-pocket expenses as considerable to severe. The National Cancer Institute recognizes the unique research needs of childhood cancer and the associated need for increased funding to carry this out. Hundreds of nonprofit organizations at the local and national level, including the American Childhood Cancer Organization, are helping children with cancer and their families cope through educational, emotional, and financial support. Too many children are affected by this deadly disease, and more must be done to raise awareness and find a cure. How can you help? Donate your time. To feel the direct impact of your support during Childhood Cancer Month, dedicate time to the cause. Nonprofits can always use an extra hand or benefit from services you and your employer can provide. Find volunteer opportunities in your neighborhood or online for you or a group of friends and coworkers through Volunteer Match. You don't even need to do it only solely during Childhood Cancer Month. Make it a habit. Set aside your personal Children's Cancer Awareness Week where you'll volunteer your time at a pediatric hospital near you. You get to decide when Childhood Cancer Awareness Week is for you, as long as you commit to it. Create childhood cancer gift baskets. Gift baskets are a great pick-me-up for kids spending long periods of time in a children's hospital. Think about things they might miss from life at home, perhaps a stuffed animal friend, fuzzy socks, or a new coloring book, and wrap it up in a gold bow. If you have the time, spend a part of your day in a pediatric hospital, help hand out the baskets, and see a child's face brighten. Start a fundraiser for someone facing childhood cancer. If you're connected to a child who has received news of a cancer diagnosis, consider starting a fundraiser. The cost of cancer can put a serious dent in families' finances, creating barriers between a sick child and much-needed care. In the U.S., high costs, even for those with insurance, force many cancer patients to skip necessary treatment. To help family members focus on the child's health and recovery, launch a fundraiser in his or her name to show that you're supporting them. Start a workplace fundraiser for childhood cancer research, education, and advocacy. For Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, team up with colleagues to support pediatric cancer research, education, and advocacy through a fundraising program. Crowdfunding simplifies fundraising, enabling you to collect funds from friends and family and coworkers with ease. Call a meeting, start a fundraiser. You can even set up your own Childhood Cancer Week and do fundraising events regularly at your workplace. There are local nonprofits, national nonprofits. Some of the local nonprofits are K's for Cancer, the Paternoster Foundation, Think Big, and if you ever see a kid collecting for Minithon, that supports childhood cancer as well through Hershey Hospital. Did you know the House of Representatives has a bipartisan caucus dedicated to the childhood cancer awareness? The Congressional Childhood Cancer Caucus works towards eliminating the threat of cancer for children. If your representative isn't already involved, invite him or her to join. Take time to get to know childhood cancer survivors. Jenny Shaw was 6 years old when she was diagnosed. She's now a proud survivor, and she and her family are determined to pay their good luck forward by giving back to others who are battling childhood cancer. You'll find it hard not to be inspired by Jenny's story and her fundraiser to give care bags to other children in their time of need. Team Tink is a group I created on Facebook back at diagnosis to keep our friends and family updated with the path that we found ourselves on August 3rd of 2017. I've kept it going to draw attention to childhood cancer, how many people it affects, and how you can help or at least be aware. Her whole journey through treatment is still on Team Tink. It's hashtag Team Tink. This is Tink. Another thing to look at on Facebook is a page called I Draw Childhood Cancer. Angus Olson, the artist, is from Australia and is the father of a childhood cancer survivor. Through their journey, he turned to his talent and has a heart to educate and support families facing the beast. His work is known across the world and can be seen in many fundraising flyers as well as medical arenas. Angus has been nominated for Australian of the Year in 2023. Children with cancer are like candles in the wind who accept the possibility that they are in danger of being extinguished by a gust of wind from nowhere. And yet, as they flicker and dance to remain alive, their brilliance challenges the darkness and dazzles those of us who watch their light. Okay.
I'm Harry Rogers. I'm the father of the Tinker.
She's a senior.
What's that?
She's a senior.
She's a
Senior, yes, she's a senior, and thank God. I just want you to think, the worst thing you have to say to your child, and it's telling her she has cancer, and you're falling apart, trying to hold it together, and she looks up at you and says, Daddy, I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around it. She was braver than I was, and she still is. I just want us all to work together and try to find a way to get this cure or treatment better so that parents don't have to tell their children that. And I just want to thank you guys for the time.
I forgot I wanted to mention, you mentioned about loss of childhood in the proclamation, and she decided she wanted to have a yard sale this year, and we went back to our storage unit and found boxes from her room from the time of diagnosis with unopened toys. That was like a time capsule of a childhood lost, because from age 11 to almost age 14, she was in treatment, lost her hair, lost her eyelashes, lost her eyebrows, had to do school at home, had to wear masks before COVID when she had no white blood cells to fight anything off that she might face out in the public. And it was very overwhelming to actually see that sitting there untouched by a child. So, thank you again.
Thank you.
You know, thank you guys, really, and thank you, Olivia, really, for coming in. Can I ask you, where did you have your treatment?
Geisinger.
Geisinger. So, I mean, I was listening to what you were saying and just the logistics of taking a child to Geisinger and back and forth for families. I mean, just the logistics of it, right?
Well, and you're well aware, but that was in the same, we took our grandson in to raise. He was 3 months old in November of 2016.
Right.
She was diagnosed in August of 2017. So we had an almost 1-year-old that we had to make sure was taken care of in the same time we were focused on her.
Right. You guys were going through a lot, and you've been through a lot. And really, hats off to you for coming today, because when you come, you help us understand and you help us keep it in front of the public. And we really appreciate that. That's something you may not recognize, but we really appreciate you coming, because it's not often that we get to think about this, and we should probably think about it more often than we do, especially when we're passing laws and doing other things.
And Olivia, thank you for sharing your story and your talents. You have a beautiful singing voice, and you have many talents. And you're doing great things, continue to do great things. And the people that you're helping us, you have no idea how many thousands of people you're going to help in your lifetime.
Liv, you and I are going to have to go shopping. It might cost me a little bit more money.
Oh, guaranteed, Tony.
But I can say this, you know, being a cancer survivor myself, the uncertainty that it brings on the family and the child. I've never experienced that, but it's a tough, trying time.
Facing your own mortality, let alone your own child's mortality.
And you don't know, you know.
You don't.
We talk about hunger. You don't know what's going to happen. And so you forfeit up all those other things, all those things that can benefit your family just to make sure that she gets, or they get the best health care possible. So whenever you can help out a family or know of a family that's going through, whether it's the mother or not, and there are organizations out there that they're nonprofits that give. I mean, my son John Heinball, they have Girls in the Hoodie, where they give the females a hoodie so it keeps them warm, and then they donate 100% of the money to children's education of children who lost their mothers. So, in scholarships. Reach out and don't be afraid to give to these organizations, because they're very specific on what they do. It's always nice to have a hug. Thanks.
Thank you. So we'd like to give you your proclamation, and at the same time get a picture of you. King of Prussia.
There you go.
Okay, next proclamation, National Suicide Prevention Week.
National Suicide Prevention and Action Month. Hope for the Day's proclamation. Whereas with September being recognized as Suicide Awareness Month, the National Suicide Prevention and Action Month proclamation was created to raise the visibility of mental health and proactive suicide prevention resources in our community. We also want to start the conversation, destigmatize it, and help connect people with the appropriate support services. And whereas according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, suicide is the second leading cause of death among individuals between the ages of 10 and 34, with more than 48,000 people dying by suicide annually in the United States. And whereas according to Hope for the Day, with an average of 132 suicides completed daily, and each one directly impacting 100 additional people, including friends, service members, family, social media connections, and neighbors, we can safely assume everyone has been impacted by suicide. And whereas Lycoming County, Pennsylvania publicly places its full support behind those who work in the field of mental health, education, and law enforcement. And whereas global organizations like Hope for the Day and our many national, local mental health agencies that are here serve on the front lines of a war that many refuse to discuss due to stigma. And whereas we encourage all residents to take time to understand mental health through education and to recognize that we need to take care of our mental health while we take care of each other. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the Lycoming County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim the month of September 2023 as National Suicide Prevention and Action Month in Lycoming County, Pennsylvania. Signed, Lycoming County Commissioners Scott L. Metzger, Chairman, Tony R. Macer, Vice Chairman, and Richard Marabito, Secretary. So, I sometimes often wonder why we have such a stigma around suicide, and I hope that, Krista, we know that you sponsored this and that you're going to come up. But I hope, if nothing else from this proclamation, people will recognize that mental health and physical health are both interconnected, but they're also part of the same challenge that we have, right? That the body needs help and the mind needs help. And it's hard for us to sometimes recognize that, and we certainly sometimes feel shame about it, and we shouldn't, right? what's interesting is that if you look historically in our country, I mean, 75 years ago, if someone had cancer, people didn't talk about it. Do you know, my own father, when he died, they think he had nocturnal epilepsy. He was 42. My mother didn't tell us till she was dying, and they didn't talk about it because in the 1950s for something that existed that had nothing to do with what you did at your job. So in some ways, we've come really a long way, right? Today, we openly talk about childhood cancer, we talk about cancer, we talk about mental health. So we are growing in a way as a society, and so I hope that today's proclamation, we continue that growth, and we find ways to reach out to people to say there is no stigma, there is no shame. Same thing with drug addiction, right? There is no shame, there is no stigma. And if we get there at that place, then we are moving ahead.
Krista?
On November 28th, 2021, a very dear friend of mine took his own life. His name was Jose, and he was only 16 years old. He hadn't even lived here 3 months, but he was bullied because of his race and numerous other things. Mental health awareness and suicide prevention are incredibly important topics that deserve our attention and support. By raising awareness, we can break down the stigma surrounding mental health and create a more compassionate and understanding society. It's crucial to educate ourselves and others about the signs of mental health struggles so we can intervene and provide necessary support. According to the CDC, deaths due to suicide declined in 2019 and 2020, but increased approximately 5% in the United States in 2021. Suicide deaths further increased in 2022, rising from 48,183 deaths in 2021 to an estimated 49,449 deaths in 2022, an increase of approximately 2.6%. According to HHS Secretary Xavier Becerra, 9 in 10 Americans believe America is facing a mental health crisis. The new suicide death data reported by CDC illustrates why one too many. Yet too many people still believe asking for help is a sign of weakness. Common signs of mental health struggles in teenagers can include changes in behavior, such as withdrawal from activities or friends, sudden mood swings, excessive irritability or anger, changes in sleep or appetite patterns, difficulty concentrating or making decisions, loss of interest in previously enjoyed activities, or expressing feelings of sadness, hopelessness, or worthlessness. It's important to approach these signs with empathy and support and encourage open communication. Also, seeking professional help is crucial if you notice these signs persisting or worsening. I'd like to now read a poem called "It Will Be Okay, You Will Be Okay." I remind myself it's okay to not be okay. Allow yourself time, be kind to yourself. Don't feel like you're a failure. Everything needs to be looked after. Even the strongest buildings will start to crumble if not cared for properly. It's only then they can be fixed and made stronger, but it's not something that can be done alone. There's no shame in asking someone to hold the ladder as you fix them hard to reach places. Take a deep breath and remember it's okay to not be okay. I would also like to read these Bible verses. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Deuteronomy 31:8. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Isaiah 41:10. I'd like to thank the commissioners for recognizing suicide awareness and childhood cancer, both causes that are very important to me and to who I am today.
Thank you, Olivia.
We have Kelly Gordon, local president of NAMI, and Chuck and Kate are also here from the coroner's office.
Yeah, Kelly.
Good morning, commissioners.
Good morning.
Liv, I can't say, you are a beautiful and brave individual, and thank you for your commitment and advocacy to mental health and all you do. I'd also like to say, commissioners, you had made a point about stigmas with suicide. I always kind of like to bring home that more than the stigma with suicide, it's actually the stigma associated with mental health. Suicide is the last, that's our end line. That's the end of it. Suicide is the final call that they say, I can't do any more, and there's no more that I can find that can offer me to relieve the suffering and pain I'm going through. The part about suicide is less than the stigma, it's the comfort to talk about it and make people aware that it is okay to talk about. I always like to say, kind of like birth control, it doesn't stop, you talk about birth control, helps people not have babies and help people have safe choices associated with their activities. Same with suicide. We talk about it to help prevent it, and research does support that if we talk about and educate that, then it will help decrease suicide rates. If you have family members or loved ones who have been impacted by suicide, it increases a child's risk to commit suicide and or attempt by over 50%. To provide a little bit of information though of what our county is doing for it, I have prepared a little bit. I will read to you guys. The Center for Community Resources, also known as CCR, initiated their role as a provider for mental health crisis intervention services in Lycoming and Clinton counties on August of 2022. CCR brings a comprehensive approach to crisis, supported by and offering a 24-hour mobile crisis access line, telephone support, chat options, texting capabilities, and walk-in support. The level of support has offered a diverse and immediate response for individuals who are suffering from a mental health crisis and or having thoughts of feelings of suicide. Lycoming Clinton MHID partners with our local NAMI chapter, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, in hosting our county suicide prevention committee. The county and suicide prevention committee mission is to promote, collaborate efforts amongst community members, service providers and agencies, and develop strategies to prevent suicide through the public education and awareness, community action, and local grassroots advocacy. The Suicide Prevention Committee supports those affected by suicide, provides education surrounding prevention and postvention, and focuses efforts on reducing the stigmas associated with suicide and mental illness. The committee is also committed to the efforts and discussions that reduce access to lethal means and methods of self-harm. With the support of our local partnering veteran centers, gun locks have been donated to the county's Suicide Prevention Committee for distribution to provide to organizations, geriatric homes, community events, and local gun raffles. In addition, in 2023, which is with the help of Mr. Tim Mahoney sitting in the back, where the county held its Suicide Prevention Walk for the 7th annual year. On a larger outreach, NAMI has also been working to host, if you guys have not seen yet, Kevin Hines. He will be speaking at the Community Arts Center for free to the public due to the generous donation by the Doherty and Kelly family. Kevin Hines is a mental health advocate, an award-winning global speaker, and a best-selling author, and a documentary filmmaker who reaches audiences with his story of an unlikely survival of strong will to live. 2 years after he was diagnosed with bipolar disorder at the age of 19, he attempted to take his life by jumping from the Golden Gate Bridge. At that moment, he had said, "I wish I would have never done it." With the help, with luck on his side, he did survive that. So we will be hosting that event on September 12th, free to the public. It's at 7:30 and the doors open at 6:30. You can find tickets online at the CAC. To also support our bi-county region, the MHID Joiner will be also hosting him in Clinton County at the Roxy Center the day after. So if you aren't able to make Lycoming, please feel free to travel down to our partnering county for that support. Mental health first aid is also continuing to be offered and facilitated by the Joiner employees to the prison staff, law enforcement, first responders, and school districts, clergy, and located in our bi-county region. To ensure access and across ages, Lycoming County Blast IU offers classes for mental health first aid for youth. They also offer QPR training, which is question, persuade, and refer, which is training that helps to address suicide and help educate people on awareness on symptoms. The one thing I kind of want to hit home on, though, is though we're doing all these efforts in our county, suicide still is a crisis for us, and it can be prevented. As of date, we have had 16 suicides in the Lycoming Clinton County region, with ages ranging from 23 to 83. It's not something that's discriminating, and it's not targeting one population. It's targeting all of us in different social economic classes. And though we're working very hard to try to form subcommittees and try to raise awareness and bring in educators, you know, during our suicide prevention committee, we've had Chris Ebner speak, we've had Blast speak, we have Rural Minds coming in October, who is who their whole goal is to say, how do we educate rural people in rural populations, because we are a rural area, and that is an area that we forget often exists. So we bring in a variety of people to help with that, but I still would say it's not hitting the mark. So despite positive efforts and steps taken by Lycoming Clinton County, suicide remains a public health issue and touches the lives of our community. Suicide and suicide attempts cause serious emotional, physical, and economic impacts. Suicide and suicide attempts affect the health and well-being of friends, loved ones, co-workers, and the community. And when people die by suicide, their surviving family and friends may experience prolonged grief, shock, anger, guilt, and symptoms of depression or anxiety, and even thoughts of suicide themselves. And for our counties, firearms are still the most common method of suicide used, followed by strangulation, suffocation, and poisoning. And the one part I forgot to tell you guys is I'm Kelly Gordon. I'm president for NAMI of North Central PA, and I'm also the CAPS coordinator for Lycoming Clinton County. You're welcome. Thank you, gentlemen. I always appreciate your time.
You know, Kelly, you said something which is very important, which is about suicide in rural counties.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if you look, you'll find that suicide rates are higher in rural counties. In the last 20 years, they've gone up at a much higher rate than in urban and suburban. So we need to be aware of that, and as county commissioners, which we do, through the joinder, we need to make sure we put resources. We did the CCR and any others. So whatever you guys need, you should come and ask us. You know,
Okay.
Ask the commissioners, because it is more of a problem, and even if it wasn't more of a problem, but the fact is that over the last 20 years, rates have gone up higher in rural America.
And we forget the rural populations also have their own culture.
Yeah.
You know, many of our farmers are raised to say we're going to do this on our own, and they're not as apt to reach out and say let's ask for outside help. They also don't have access to some of the broadband, so that limits their access to virtual support. Their travel times can be much longer than ours to get places, which makes it very difficult for them. And so I do believe for the bi-county region, though I know this is Lycoming, it is an area that we do need to continue to focus on. And I do believe that the joinder there, we are working on kind of ways to say, how do we address this and what unique ways can we address it?
Yeah. I mean, part of the problem may be that our ability to get mental health services is really challenged, right? We know if you want to see a psychiatrist, we hear stories of people waiting months to get in. And so some of the things, Representative Flick is having a human service event next week, and I think one of the messages we want to bring to our elected officials in Harrisburg is we need programs that will encourage psychiatrists, psychologists, and so forth to come and move here, settle here, right? We need, Commissioner Metzger, you mentioned the other day about a program where we even maybe incentivize. So that would help us, with the mental health issues. So.
Yeah, and the expo is on September 7th, and I think they'll have a variety of different vendors from the community there, and I think that's from 3:30 to 6:30, if I recall correctly. So, and then between there, they'll have some speakers if you guys are interested.
You know, Kevin Hines, I went to hear him.
Yes.
And I'm not indulged what he said, but the place was packed. It was very inspirational. He's an excellent motivational speaker. So I'd encourage everyone to go listen to this guy. But, there are some signs. Then there are people that don't show you. Mm-hmm. And he probably was one of them. And, so when you're out in your community and people are struggling, whether it be financial or, having children with cancer, so many different traumatic experiences out there. Reach out. If you see someone, loneliness is another issue, And if you see somebody sitting alone at a restaurant, invite them to your table. Be more open. Don't be afraid. It's really important that everyone, gives time and tries to be a part of the solution. And we see it. Sometimes, like I said, they have the times when he said, "Oh boy, when I let go of that rail," he says, "I regretted it." That's pretty powerful. So.
Yeah. And after his presentation, he'll also offer a talkback session. So for those who are wanting to attend, you can, when he's finished at the Capitol Lounge, he'll be there, and so he'll be able to kind of do some more personal, back and forth if you have any questions for him. So it'll be a positive event for our community. That's what we're hoping for from NAMI, and we want to say, bring the community in, because we have a whole community in Lycoming County who is helpful, wanting to help, and I think we just need to work on how do we get there with each other and not being afraid of that. So, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Yes.
Chuck, you have anything you would like to say?
Going on a whim, take a ride with me, I don't know anything. So I just figured from the coroner's office perspective, we would give some numbers. And like Kelly had said, actually the 16 deaths were strictly in Lycoming County. I don't know Clinton County deaths offhand. But in 2018, we went from 25 suicides, 2019, 16, 2020, 15, 21, 19, 2022, 24, and then we have had 16, and I believe we'll have a 17th once we get some tox records back, unfortunately, for another decedent. So obviously suicide is not leaving the area. Mental health continues to be a problem in the county. Like Kelly said, it's very unfortunate. For us in the coroner's office, we're seeing it, and we see the families left behind. It's hard for us to explain our jobs, but one of the things we do when we have suicides, especially if a family member is alone, we try to guide them through with some resources in the county to try and help them, because just as you stated, once they've either witnessed suicide or had a family member that has committed suicide, then they start talking about it themselves because they feel hopeless and they couldn't help that individual. So very small things the coroner's office has done, becoming a part of the suicide prevention teams locally. And Tim's back here. I don't even know who started these, Tim, but it's basically a little sheet with suicide prevention information and crisis help, and these would go across to the different medical providers in the area. So if you wrote a prescription for an antidepressant, you took one of these off and you provided it to the patient as well. So that's something small we've done, as well as our grief booklets with local resources. In the county, I will say for our county employees, those who are interested, I'm on the safety committee. We will be doing mental health first aid in October, and we will be doing the QPR training too, which offers some information about what the red flags look like, how to help somebody walk themselves off the edge, so to speak, if they're having mental health issues. Anything?
Yeah. As most of you know, my background is EMS, emergency room, and I spent 26 years in the emergency department dealing with mental health issues on a regular basis. And unfortunately, once they get to our office, it's over. And I've spent my career in the coroner's office looking at all deaths from a preventability standpoint, and clearly, if we can get people plugged into the resources they need, these are preventable deaths. And so we're just going to continue to do that, to hopefully get our numbers down. But it's been a big struggle. It's uphill, everything that we've done, and some of it is the resources. And I know from putting my nursing hat on, we don't have the resources in this community. Children, if they need mental health work, typically go out of the area, must go to Kids Peace or some other facilities at significant distance, and they're just not here. Geisinger, I know, is working on the mental health facility that down in the Bloomsburg area. Hopefully that'll provide some additional resources closer to home, but it's still not Lycoming County. So it's just a nightmare for the community. I know for the emergency room, they're holding patients that are not safe to send home, but they don't have resources so they're filling up beds in an emergency department because we don't have the resources to get these people sent to a safe place where they can get the treatment they need. So it's still a huge work in progress, and I just applaud everyone for their efforts in trying to
hopefully reduce these numbers. We consistently are, I think the national average is around 11 or 12 per 100,000 deaths every year. We consistently are above that number in this county. So thank you for your job. Okay.
I've had 5 friends commit suicide, and it's painful each time. I'd say one of my closest friends since 5th grade committed suicide 20 years ago. He was the guy that everybody went to with their problems. Very successful, and his life fell apart in 6 months, and he was gone. And he's buried up in the Torresville Cemetery, and I go by his grave, walking the dog almost daily, and I stop by, and his picture's etched on the stone, and he left behind 2 boys, and I, it's so painful. And what his family's gone through, what his friends have gone through. We had gathered at the gravesite a year after we lost him, and the pastor that had done the service looked out over he goes, I want you to look out over the community, because it's up in the hill there in Torresville Cemetery. Look out over the hill. Look out over the houses. And he says, they're all beautiful homes down there on the surface. But you don't know what's going on inside those homes. And you don't know what's going on inside your loved ones' homes, inside their heads. So reach out and talk to them and spend time with them. If you see them down, whatever it takes. And it's tough. It's tough. And you see that you hear the stigmatism, and it's insane. Some of the stuff that's said. Anyone can go through this. Everybody has a breaking point. And some of the stuff is said is insensitive. It's wrong. They're uneducated. I want to thank Naomi for their work, what they do in this area, and reach out and be kind to each other.
Olivia read a couple verses from the Bible, and that book has a lot of the answers. We complicate our lives way too much. But I believe in divine intervention, and that Mr. Hines is one of them. Since 1937, 1,800 people have jumped off that bridge, and only 35 survived. So he survived for a reason, and that's to communicate. And I thank God that he's one of the messengers.
It is a real problem. And during the pandemic, which is less than 2 years ago, 1 out of every 4 people that were aged 24 to 30, aged 18 to 24, were contemplating suicide. Okay. So it's a real issue that we have to recognize. So thank you for your awareness, bringing it to us again. Thank you, Olivia. Thank you.
Tim? Do you have anything to say? Come on. Sure you do.
Just a comment that they passed the 988.
You got to come up here, Tim, because it's being live streamed.
Now, Tim is one heck of a volunteer, and he was a county employee at one time.
They passed nationally 988, makes it a lot easier for people to call, to get, it's a text to, and there's a operation throughout the whole country where there's counseling services that automatically get those phone calls. A lot of states have stepped up to help sustain that. Pennsylvania is not one of them. I haven't seen the budget figures in terms of mental health. They're still trying to drill them down, but we need to be able to sustain this in our state. And Pennsylvania needs to step up to do that, because it's been a year old, and they found out it's very effective in terms of what it's done so far. They're going to add more call centers. There's one call center in State College, and the phone calls, so go there. If they're busy, it automatically trips to another area so someone can pick up the phone and talk to them. So it's an immediate contact. So, but we need to make sure it's sustained. So whatever you can do to buttonhole somebody and just say, we need to have this to keep it going. And I know NAMI's behind it 100% and will do their efforts as well. So thank you for your attention on this.
You know, Tim, it's a really good point you've raised. What is the number people should call to get?
Well, there's a toll-free number, and that was always, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, tell the public,
This came by for maybe 10 years or so. We have to update it because we have to add, there's a text number that you can do, and also the 988. And we have that around, during our health fairs, we have information on the 988 that we put out. Now, posters also that come out.
Can you call 988 from this location?
Yeah.
Okay, you can. So it's just that Pennsylvania has not participated
Right.
in
It's
keeping it up.
nationwide. Anybody can call it
Okay.
anywhere.
So
but
988 is the number to call for.
But each state has a responsibility to maintain those.
Got
Okay,
it.
it came down from federal government, but at the same time, they have to maintain that for each state. And a lot of states have stepped up and done that. And, sorry, maybe there's something in that bill. I don't know.
What's the texting number you were going to read us, sir?
Well, you can text 988 too.
You can text or call 988 and you will be connected with help.
Yes.
There's a text, I don't know what the text, it's one, do you have that, Kelly? I don't have it. No, it's a 3-digit, it's a 6-digit number.
The 570-326-7895 number is the crisis line here in Lycoming County, because I've called it a million times when I worked in the ER. It's burned in my brain. So that's the crisis line locally. And we can certainly get the other numbers together too, because this was something that I developed talking to some of the docs. Said, if we had something about prescription size, we can give it out to patients who's put on antidepressants, that this would give them somebody to call 24/7 if things aren't working for them.
And the county is no longer the crisis contract, so that would be CCR. So, and unfortunately, I didn't bring CCR, so my apologies for that. But Commissioner Mirabito, if you'd like, I can send you that information so you can have that for record. If you, my phone's in the back, so I don't have it in front of me right now. But I do think there is a different line for CCR. But 988 is an option, then CCR does have text options.
Well, I think that you read the CCR number, which is 570-326.
That's the county mental MHIP
Oh,
number.
that's, okay, they didn't incorporate it over. So for the public to understand, there used to be crisis calls went into the joinder.
Yes.
To the mental health, and the commissioners, the three of us and the 3 Clinton County commissioners hired CCR.
Correct.
On a contract, and they now take 24/7, 365 days a year.
Yes.
Calls dealing with crisis. And listen to the public. If you call that number and you don't feel that you're getting the help you want, call us and tell us, because they are a vendor and we want to know whether the people feel like their job is being done. Don't, I'm not looking for problems to be raised, but what I'm saying to the public is that if you're not getting the referral or the assistance you need to tell us like we would with any vendor.
And that was kind of, as aforementioned in my previous statement, is they're the ones who offer, they have chat, text, online, they have mobile crisis, they also have a follow-up crisis. So after an event would happen, they touch base with the family a few days after to have that continuity aspect that, is what makes them a unique provider for that service.
Yeah, we were very excited about contracting with CCR.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Should we do a follow-up?
I'm very good. We're good.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, reports.
Okay, 2.1, Kaylin, approve accounts payable cash requirements report.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Make sure she gets that.
Excuse me.
Excuse me 1 second. Hey, Kelly? We have the proclamation, would you please? Yeah, thank you.
Do we want to take a picture?
Yeah, let's get a picture.
We should do it, because then you can post it and tell people where to call for help. Tim, the other folks, Krista, Olivia.
Will you come?
Come up.
Yes, Tim snuck out.
Tim snuck out. Mr. Kiesling
Yeah, I do
and
too,
his
actually.
daughter and Tim and.
There he is. I know, right?
We specifically
Oh,
want
there
to
he
put
is.
something on the website directing people where to go for help. And so this will become the,
Can I take a picture and I can get myself out of it? Okay, move in slow. Okay, smile. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
thanks, Beth.
Excuse me.
See you, T.
See you. Take care again.
And I'll send that to you, okay?
Yeah, send it to Cindy upstairs.
Cindy, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Caitlin.
All right. Presented for your ratification are invoices due through September 6th, 2023, to be paid on August 30th, 2023, for $1,314,992.41. The breakdown is as follows, with 60.27% being funded by the general fund at $792,519.51. 18.62% is being funded by Act 13 grant money at $244,842. 8.19% is being funded by other grants, pass-through monies, and funding sources at $107,749.13. 8.83% is being funded by RMS at $116,052.97, and 4.09% is being funded by escrow at $53,828.80.
Okay, a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to personal actions, I'll go ahead and do that for Ally. She had to depart for another meeting.
Okay.
So, in Resource Management Services, Douglas Leonard, Resource Recovery Supervisor, full-time replacement, $24.77 per hour, 80 hours per pay period, transfer date September 3rd, 2023. In Information Technology, Douglas Boyles, Technical Specialist, full-time replacement, $23.08 an hour, 75 hours per pay period, start date September 18th, 2023. In the Pre-Release Center, Gabrielle Averatis, Resident Supervisor 1, full-time replacement, $18.10 per hour, 80 hours per pay period, transfer date September 3rd, 2023. In Information Technology, Laura Harrison, Clerk 3, mailroom, full-time replacement, $16.46 per hour, 75 hours per pay period, start date September 5, 2023. And lastly, in the District Attorney's Office, Lindsay Sweely, Assistant District Attorney, full-time replacement, $65,000 per year, 75 hours per pay period, start date September 5, 2023.
Okay, got a motion?
I'll move to approve.
A second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
All right, moving to action items. 4.1, Commissioner seeking your approval on a price quote from Supply Source in the amount of $13,800. 2023 budget funds are available. And this is the price to move domestic relations office file management system that's in the basement from the current location to a new location on the other side of the basement to facilitate the movement of sheriff's cells and everything and office space down to the basement.
Okay, this is 2023 budgeted item. So a motion?
I'll move to approve.
A second.
All in favor, say
Aye.
Aye.
Are these, Mr. McDermott, are these physical files? Or is it that machine?
This is the file.
The big machine?
Right.
Yeah.
And
gotcha.
so this is to move it, and then domestics is actually going to expand the the system itself so they can handle more files in the future.
Right. Okay, that's a
So we'll
huge-
design a new room
Yeah.
or new space for them.
Those things are huge.
Yeah, huge machine.
They're-
I mean, this is not a toy. This goes like ceiling to
Yeah,
floor.
pretty amazing. The wheel
Yeah,
that
and
moves
the
the
wheel
whole
turns, yeah, they probably have to dismantle it.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, 4.2. Commissioner, seeking your approval on Resolution 2023-16 to appoint Peter C. Lavecchio as an additional assistant solicitor.
A motion?
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried.
4.3, Leslie.
Morning, Leslie.
Commissioners, good morning, Matt.
Good morning.
Today, we're seeking your approval, Commissioners, to renew our 2023 to 2026 Microsoft licensing. This is a 3-year agreement, in the first year, and then the 2 years after that, it's just called a true-up. The core license is $170,894.33. The second part to that is $36,197.16 for a total of $207,091.49, and that is budgeted for.
I have a motion.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, so carried. Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you.
4.4, Jason, right away.
Leslie, quick question for you. You don't know offhand how many licenses this covers, do you? I see 610 plus,
It's 610.
it's 610?
Yeah.
Okay, just so the public understands.
Sure.
That's.
Sure.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning, Director. Commissioners, 4.4, this is a approve a right-of-way agreement with PP&L Electric Utilities. As you know, Route 15 corridor is getting quickly developed, and PP&L has to do some upgrades, and they are seeking a right-of-way to put a pole down on our property off of Route 15 in the area of what we're calling the south exit for the landfill that we're going to be developing. But this is to support the PP&L's efforts through the Great Streams Common and just generally upgrading that whole corridor. So they have one pole they need to put on our property. So we did have this research from Bartlett Judas with our surveying team to make sure this wasn't going to interfere in any projects of ours. So we're good to go.
Okay, motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
And 4.5 and 4.6, Kelsey, change orders with Steinbach.
Morning, Kelsey.
Morning, Commissioners. So today I have 2 change orders for our contract with Steinbacher. These change orders are for the site restorations for the HMGP demo properties that Steinbacher is coming back in and doing the restorations on. After visiting these sites right after a rainstorm, we found some additional ponding issues on the properties, so they needed some more topsoil to cover those, so they'll pass FEMA inspection.
Okay. Do you want to cover both of them? 4.5 and 4.6?
If we can, yeah.
Okay, absolutely. Motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you,
Thank you.
Commissioners.
All right, Commissioner comments?
Do you have any? Commissioner? No. Okay.
Public.
Public comments? Ask whoever speaks publicly that they keep their issues pertaining to county issues, please. Thank you. Morning, Tom.
Morning, Commissioners. Tom Adams, Williamsport, Proverbs 119:59. I considered my ways and turned my feet to your testimonies. I think it's good advice for everybody. And I think with our, just going off this the mental health issues, like Tony had mentioned, the Bible's a great source to help people, but sometimes, well, a lot of times people don't know where to look, and we're not islands, we do need to reach out to others. And when someone's struggling, hopefully we can direct them to the right people. But I was thinking an instance of my grandson. He's got, he's on the spectrum for his autism. But a few years ago, he was about 19, I think, at the time. He was talking with a girl off and on. They like the game and stuff. He doesn't relate real well with a lot of people, but this girl is struggling. And she called him. She thinks she lives in Maryland. And he talked her through not committing suicide. No training at all, but he just has a heart, that kind of heart. He knows how to connect. But it was real because a couple days later, the mother called him and thanked him. So hopefully there's some ongoing help for her, but apparently, it worked. But we just need to have a heart for others. And one of the things that we saw, witnessing what happened in Hawaii, and I brought up a little bit last week, and I kind of cut it short because the young girl that was in here. I think one of the problems there, when people are in positions of power in government and they're not doing their jobs, they need to be held accountable, because that costs a lot of lives what they did there. They had police barricading exits for people to get out. They didn't sound the sirens for people to be aware, to alert. They're thinking there's anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people, and a lot of kids that were just burned to death. They weren't allowed to leave. They were keeping people from going in to help. The people that didn't listen to the government agents or the people who are supposed to be doing the right thing survived. So that tells you a lot. There's a woman that had to jump in the water. I said the water was hot. They had to keep moving further out. She went in with a group of people, maybe 20 to 50. They found her a mile off coast. She was the lone survivor. All the rest around her drowned. She had to tread water and swim for 8 to 9 hours. That's for anyone who was in that water. So some of the questions have to come up. Where were the ships? I mean, there's a great military presence down in Hawaiian Islands. Where was the help? Where was the aid? There's other states out on the West Coast where the high wind warnings come in. They cut power so this doesn't happen. But the power wasn't even cut after the electric lines hit the ground. And of course, the water was held back from being used because the fellow in charge of that, one of his things is that, well, we got to keep the clean water for the indigenous farmers. And I'm all for farming and stuff, but you got to protect life first. You know, these people, when government gets in that situation, those people need to be held accountable. And hopefully in our community, we look out for each other, and some things that we know that aren't right, we don't pay attention. We have to do what's right, help each other, and hold the ones who a lot of times aren't even associated with the community, hold them accountable. I think this is a scorched earth policy that the Soviets did and any communist regime does to take land away from people. Thanks.
Anybody else? Yes. Yes. You're up.
Hi, Mark Sortman, representing Loyalsock Township. In your proclamation today on the hunger, the conversation led to homeless. We are finding in Loyalsock that that's growing. Our community of homeless is growing as well. It's, you know, I attribute a little bit to the walking paths we're adding along the river and up to our parks where there's some nice hiding spots. But as I discuss this with our board and my wife, we talk more in depth of what's the fix, because the fix isn't just throwing them out of Loyalsock Township. They're just going to go somewhere else. Is there a county program that, I don't know, goes out and talks to these individuals? I mean, you know, we're going to go out, we're going to talk to them, and we're going to remove them from our neighborhoods. but we don't have the resources at Loyalsock to say, here's where you go, here's how you get different help. Is there a county resource for that, or is?
You can refer people to, if there are issues of domestic violence, to the YWCA, or just in general, the YW can help people sort out. You can refer them to STEP and
Rescue workers is another.
the American Rescue Workers.
Okay.
So I think one of the questions you sort of need to grapple with is maybe the township could do something on its own in connection with an agency, because right now those agencies in Williamsport sort of end up taking a lot of the burden for the homeless problem for the whole county.
Mm-hmm.
And at a certain point, there's so many beds at the shelter, the Gray Street workers, and they allow people to stay there for 30 days, and then they try to work with people, with private landlords, to get them places. But it would be great, I think, if Loyalsock, as a municipality, partnered with a church or something, even if it's just to help fund it. I'm not telling you guys how to run your show.
No,
I'm just
right.
saying that, if you connected with a church up there and they were willing to open a shelter with some beds and so forth.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is speaking to them, listening to what their needs are, and then getting hooked up with the needs, the type of needs that they have. Because Lycoming County I've been working next door, is very rich in resources. It's just plugging them into the right need. And
Right.
there are a lot of churches that are involved with different, food pantries. First Church has where they can stay overnight. I don't know if they do that in the summertime. I know they do that in the winter and the fall.
But who helps, and maybe I misunderstand it, so I'm trying to educate myself a little bit as well. There's one gentleman I know that's in one of our parking lots in a van, so he has a car.
Right.
So somehow he gets some sort of but, I just look at it and say, I know there's federal programs. How do you take the homeless person and get them at least into a welfare program so they have some financial resources? I'm just assuming financial resources is why they're there. I could be wrong as well.
And you can also reach out to Ron Frick at United Way, because they have funding for a lot of the different programs, so he can refer you to which program maybe will help that person with that type of need.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
So, the STEP money that the commissioners appropriated, the ERAP money from the federal government, and so one of the problems with it was that they couldn't use the money, STEP couldn't use the money for case management. And so, as you just described, sometimes what people need is case management. They need somebody to work with them. They can go to CareerLink and so forth, but they need that connection to help them get back on their feet. I'd be happy to talk to you more about it.
Thanks, Mark, for letting us know. And we'll try to help you. Reach out to us also. We can try to help.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
The township, and see what we can do to try to get them the help that they need. So thank you. Yes.
One more comment about Hawaii. They say the greatest need there is psychological help for people committing suicide from losing their kids and their families.
It's a sad situation. Anything online?
Yes. We already got Jacob Stopper, first Keystone Chief, second. Atara Yasharao, rental assistance. Where is the round 2 fundings? And then the rest of them are from her as well. Well, you cannot control people. It starts at home. I like the red flags awareness. Have a good day. Bye. Yahoo. Guide you all.
Thank you. So we want to wish everyone a good Labor Day weekend, and safe travels if you're traveling. And as we come back from Labor Day weekend, we'll be diving into another budget season and 3 weeks of budget hearings, and we'll be very involved in developing the 2024 budget for Lycoming County in the near future. So thank you, everyone. We'll see you next Thursday. Thank you.
You know.
Okay, we got a chance for review.
Yeah.
That's all I need.
Yep.